Hello, welcome back everybody. Day 81 of my art development series. If this is your first time here, my name is Angela Wren, and this is a series that I'm doing where I'm kind of tracking my everyday progress and growth as an artist. So right now we're in the middle of what we've been calling Anatomy Month. So for the entire month of January, we've been doing nothing but anatomy drawings and anatomy studies. And it's actually a bit excessive. I even just did a video last week, I don't remember what day it was, but where I talked about this idea of burning out, just because I think I've been doing a bit too much academic study and a bit too much anatomy study. However, on the weekend, I actually did some drawings that I'm very excited about, and I don't want to say too much more about them. If you're following my Instagram, this surprise has already been spoiled, but otherwise, if you're just following along in the videos, you'll find out about this at the end of the week. Probably Thursday and Friday, I'll post those videos. So anyway, though, what we're doing today, so if you've been following along with Anatomy Month, we split up the body into 4 different weeks. So the first week of January was the front of the torso and the front of the neck. The second week was the back of the torso, back of the neck. Then the third week, last week, was legs, where we did pretty extensive study on the leg anatomy, the pelvis, just understanding a little bit better the construction of the legs, which caught me off guard actually, how much anatomy there is there and how much there was to learn. But anyway, we finished that last week. We might have to revisit it in the future, but maybe not until day 90, day 95, something like that. But this week is arms, and I saved arms intentionally for last because it's actually, in my opinion, one of the easiest pieces of the body to understand. When you start to add in the hands, it can get a little bit tricky, but I kind of haven't been touching the hands and the feet in this particular piece of the Anatomy Month, and I don't think I will. We'll do drawing hands at some point, I'm sure, just because at some point we need to cover that. But for right now, we're just going to focus on the arm anatomy. And I actually did a arm anatomy study in this series already. If you've really been following along, you might know more or less when I did it. But for those of you who are seeing this for the first time or maybe joining it now, it was day 41 is when I did that drawing. So I already did kind of like an arm study. So what is the goal of today? So the first day of every anatomy week so far has been the same, where we actually look at just understanding structurally and anatomically what is going on in that piece of the body. So basically doing a study from an anatomy sketch or an anatomy template. And so the arms are no different. So I just did a quick little sketch of the arm from 3 different angles, from the front, from the side, and from the back. Of this image that I took from the Valerie Winslow textbook, which is linked in the description below, and it's been the main kind of textbook that I've been working with so far. And it's a really nice reference because it kind of breaks down very clearly the different muscle groups of the arm. And the arm, there's not that many, which is kind of nice. If you really, so just starting at the top of the arm, you have we can even go over them. If you're just starting at the top of the arm, you have the deltoid right here, right? Which, if you really want to get into it, does have 3 pieces: the front, the middle, and the back. But really, this is this big ball that exists on the top of the shoulder. And then you have the tricep, which is on the back of the arm. Then you have the bicep, which is on the front of the arm. And I think everybody knows about the bicep. It's kind of probably the abs and the bicep are probably the most well-known muscles of the body, just because they come up in popular culture so much. Then there is a little muscle called the brachialis that kind of sits in between them, but it doesn't really come up that much and is not really super important. On certain sketches, it's good to know about it, but the bicep and the tricep make up a majority of what you need to know for the upper arm anatomy. And so that's it. That's the whole upper arm there. And then for the lower arm, there are a lot of different muscles. There's these finger-like muscles that exist in the forearm. But for me, I just like to think about the muscles that sit on the top of the forearm and then the muscles that sit on the bottom of the forearm. And then that's it. So really, really simplified, really, really easy, and really, really straightforward. So today's drawing is pretty simple, just kind of following that sequence of from top to bottom that I just went over, starting with the bones underneath. The bones I should probably study a little bit more, just because they have this kind of the bones are controlling some aspects of the movement of the arm and how it works. But for all intents and purposes right now, for today, just studying these muscle groups is fine. And so, I've talked about this before, but my mentality when I'm doing one of these studies, when I'm trying to learn anatomy, is not that I just want to copy the diagram. That's, in my opinion, a waste of time. You're really just, unless it's your very, very first time, just copying a diagram is kind of a waste of time. Instead, what you should try and do is draw the bone structure underneath, try and build up the muscles on top of that bone structure, and then try and understand in your mind, even connecting, touching your body, understanding okay, what are these different muscles, where are they, where are the borders, how do they exist, and then trying to label them as best you can without looking at the anatomy reference, and then when you actually need help, going to the anatomy reference. So in this way you're really trying to be conscious and study and understand what's happening, rather than just saying, okay, here's this one, label, here's this one, label, here's this one, label, and then as soon as you close your sketchbook you forget about all those labels. So for me, that's what I found to be the most helpful. There's something I want to quickly address. I want to start maybe doing responding more, having a segment where I respond to people's comments, because this past week I got some really, really great comments, some really in-depth comments. You know who you are, about how I could improve my study by changing a few things about how I look at the figure, how I study figure. Also got some great questions about different aspects of my art. So one of them that comes to mind is somebody asked me specifically what instrument I'm using for drawing in this series, and I mostly always use the Pentel Graph Gear 500 series, and I like the 0.9 millimeter size. And then I got a question about this idea of the overhand grip versus the pencil grip, which is a really nice question. So they both are important, and I use both pretty frequently. For me, the overhand grip is the most similar grip to painting, and so when you're holding the pencil overhand like this, you get to use your whole arm, and you can make these really nice sweeping gestures, almost like you're doing a painting. And then when you have this kind of pencil grip, if you think about trying to do sweeping gestures, it's just way more constricted because you're only using the first part of your arm as opposed to the whole arm. So that part is more for detail. And I'm gonna get more into that later this week when we look at this super secret project that I have. But that's just kind of one quick response to that question. So with that being said, if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments, and I really like the interaction. I respond, at this point I respond to almost every comment. So it's nice to have a little dialogue like that. But that's it for today. So if you're following along, today's an easy day. I hope this inspired you to draw today and maybe look at some arm anatomy.